morning, DC 030 students. This is Katie Birch, your cooperative education teacher for creating opportunities through co-op, course code DC 030. Today we are on we're on topic 4. I'm not sure why I wrote lesson on my plan here. Lesson 4, topic 4, workplace safety. This is a super important topic. This lesson today will allow you to add some credentials and skills to your resume and cover letter. So it's also really important to know your rights and maintain a safe work environment, whether that's mental, physical, spiritual, health and well-being. Everybody has a right to feel safe where they work. So just like I do every class, we are starting with communication. I notice lots of students are online already, which is really awesome to see, but don't get stuck. Make sure you call me, text me, email me. Katie Birch is my name again for those listening on the radio. You can reach me on my cell phone number, 807-738-3915. You can also email me at kburch@nnec.on.ca. So don't be shy. Reach out if you're struggling with any assignment, and I'm happy to clarify and help you work through it so we can get you graduated, or at least on track to graduation. All right, a reminder, our classes are hosted in Google Classroom. To access our NNEC Google Classroom, you're going to log in to www.classroom.google.com, and then you're going to log in with your first name, your last name. Whoops, something's happening here. The month you were born. So if you were born in November, hang on, you're going to put hang on, let me fix this. Something happened. So the month, so if you're born in November, you're going to put 11. Okay, and the day of your birth. So month, day, it needs to be 2 characters. So if it's 1, it's 01. First name dot last name, month, day at nnecschools.org. You do not have to put the year. We don't need to know how old you are or how young you are. And your initial password is WASA student, WAHSA STUDENT. That is your initial login. It's going to ask you to change your password when you first log in. So again, call me, text me, email me if you're having any trouble accessing Google Classroom. And you can also Facebook me, actually. You can find me, Katie Birch Wasa. You can send me a Facebook message too. All right, what are we doing today? We are doing workplace safety. We're going to talk about workplace accidents and you. How do you respond if there's a workplace accident? How do you identify if an accident can occur? We're going to do a little spot the hazards assignment. We're going to give you information that you need to know as an employee. It is really important to know your rights and whether you should or shouldn't do an activity in your workplace. We're also we have a lot to cover today. We're also going to talk about the Ontario Health and Safety Act, and that is just your rights as an employee, what you can expect from your employer as well. We're going to talk PPE. What is PPE, I wonder? I will tell you, it stands for Personal Protective Equipment. This is any piece of equipment that maintains your safety at work, and many employers have that requirement. I know lots of my students are working in heavy equipment. Even in an office space, there are certain things you can do to help protect yourself, even if it's a simple thing like wearing blue tint glasses to help if you're sitting in front of a computer all day. You're going to work through an activity called on WHMIS, and it will give you a WHMIS certification. And then we're going to talk, why bother learning all this? Why do I need to know? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's all about your rights, and being informed helps you stay safe. Okay, let's take a look at this picture. And for those listening on the radio, it is a lady standing in a store. She's about to climb a ladder, and I'll read the little scenario for you. It's a big sale day, and the store is about to open. Jenna has been ordered to fix a flickering ceiling light. The ladder seems old and unstable, but she doesn't want to complain. Maybe she's a new employee. So I see a manager moving around saying, Jenna, hurry up. Richard, move it, move it, move it. Get last year's stock out of here. So the manager's running around, making everyone else panic that it's not going to be ready. And then Jenna says, Sam, can you hold the ladder for a moment? And then another coworker saying, Jenna, it's not even that high. Just handle it. And then there's another employee down at the bottom, Richard, saying, wait, Jenna, let me help. And then the manager says, Richard, let her handle it. I need you here now. So they're not considering the safety options here. So the next thing that happens is Jana, of course, slips, falls from the ladder, falls through a glass table. She has cuts and bruises. She's bleeding. Richard is upset because he wasn't allowed to help. The other associate is calling 911. There's been an accident. And then Richard says, accident. This was no accident. This was a job for 2 people, not 1. And that old ladder should have been replaced years ago. Okay, so what was the hazard? We're going to talk for a minute. What was the hazard? I can't spell today. What hazard was shown in this story? So I think we can all agree that the hazard shown in the story was a ladder. It was an old ladder, and only one person was changing a light bulb. Okay, so Richard said, there are really no accidents. What do you think he means by this? There are really no accidents. You know, accidents do happen, but it's kind of an interesting statement to say there are no accidents. So all this means is if you have a safety policy in your workplace, then there aren't accidents because you have thought the dangerous situations through. So safety policies, a place with safety policies means not only will they be less accidents, but in many cases, accidents happen because people are not following safety protocol. I'll write that down so you can see. Okay, what does protocol mean? It's just not following the rules. I have a rules guy at home, so I know all about the rules. Okay, so how could this accident have been avoided, do you think? I just want you to take a minute and think about that. So first of all, they could have followed safety procedures. They could have had employee training. Because if they've done proper employee training around workplace health and safety, the manager wouldn't be asking people to rush. They would have insisted that 2 people held the ladder, okay? And also they could avoid it by knowing your rights. As an employee, you do have rights. You do have the ability to say, no, I don't feel safe doing this activity, okay? Yes, it can be stressful, but that's why communication is important, and being brave and being bold is also important. So if you were asked to do something dangerous at work, would you? Maybe you already have and you're like, ooh, that was a bad idea. So we're going to sort of go over today your rights, things that to consider around safety, and I'm going to get you to come back and answer this question if you would still do something dangerous if your employer asked you to. Remember, it's not your employer that has to go through recovery and go to medical appointments. And in the communities that you guys live in, those medical appointments aren't just a 5-minute doctor visit. It's a flight, it's a hotel, it's a stay in a hostel and changing locations every night so you have somewhere to sleep. So knowing your rights, especially when you work in the north, is super, super important. This is sort of old data here, but in 2009, which is, a while ago, there were almost 8,000 young worker injuries and illnesses in Ontario that required people to claim work being missed, okay? The most common workplace injuries are sprains, strains, cuts, punctures, bruises, concussions, those kinds of things. Most on-the-job injuries to young people happen in mostly the service and manufacturing injuries, And you as an employee actually have the right to refuse to do unsafe activities. Your supervisor is responsible for providing you with training and giving you ready to use non-damaged equipment to keep you safe. If you're injured in any way, you need to report that injury to your supervisor, to me, your co-op teacher. So if you're on co-op and there's an injury, I need to know about it as well. And there is, I'm going to put in LM4-1 in your Google Classroom so you can read it over. In case you do have an accident and you need to report it, it should be reported to your boss, your supervisor, and myself, your co-op teacher, while you're on co-op. All right, let's move along. What do you need to know? Okay, the information in the rest of this section is to help guide your workplace safety. It tells you about the kinds of injuries that can happen on the job, who's responsible to report them, and your rights as a worker, and also the different kinds of safety training that you should be eligible. So the most common workplace injuries, 3 out of 10 injuries in the workplace happen on your hands, whether it's burns, cuts, bruises, punctures, usually 3 in 10. So 3 in 10, 3 out of 10 accidents happen are on the hand. Okay, let me just find my page here. Okay, the most frequent type of workplace injury is a sprain or a strain or a fracture, okay? Or a cut, followed by a fracture. So cut, sprain, strain. So cuts on the hands, sprains, strains, and fractures. All right, workers in the service industry, so like cooking, working with hot food, are more likely than workers in any other group to experience burns or scalds. So making sure you're handling stuff appropriately, especially in this industry when people are working very fast to get food out, it's really important to take those hazards seriously. The people who work in agriculture or forestry are also most likely to experience fractures. I'll go back to my fractures. So like farm work and forestry, working out in the bush. So those knowing safety procedures and first aid is really important in those roles. And then down here it says those who are most at risk of being injured are actually people who work in the trades. So machinists and metal workers and carpenters. And of this group, 13% suffered at least one work-related injury. And I'm sure that is definitely the same now as it was in 2003. Okay, let's talk. Workplace Safety and Insurance Board is an organization in Ontario that's identified 4 types of hazards in the workplace. Not all workplaces have the same types of hazards. So people working inside a factory or custodians are more likely to be affected by fumes and chemicals and vapors and animal droppings. And people who work outside, like construction workers and working on the power line up north and things like that, are likely to have accidents on ladders and scaffolding, like we talked about earlier today. So the types of hazards that you're going to run across generally there's 4 types, general types. I'm sure there's more than 4. So one of them is chemical hazards. So that's like cleaning products, paints, acids, solvents, vapors, fumes. So if you're in a job where you are a custodian or you're working in a pharmacy, gases, propane, carbon monoxide. If you're working in a auto mechanic shop, you're going to be exposed to lots of these types of chemical hazards. So chemical is one of the hazards. The next one is physical hazards. So that's like if you're using your body to do a job. Physical hazards are electricity, if you cut a wire in the wrong spot. Unguarded machinery like saw blades, conveyor belts. So think about the types of jobs where you would experience a physical hazard. Loud noise, all you people who listen to those earbuds and have them on full volume, that is a hazard to your hearing. It won't affect you today, but it will when you're, getting a little closer to my age. And it also, even things like exposure to sunlight or ultraviolet rays, heat or cold, This is something that's definitely relevant in the north. I don't know if anyone is familiar with snow blindness, but definitely not wearing the proper protective gear to protect you when you're working outside in the snow. Snow can actually, the reflection of the sunlight on the snow into your eyes can actually do some pretty good damage to your eyes. Another physical hazards, ladders and scaffolds, liquid and spills on the floor, all things that could result in an injury to your body. Okay, let's talk biological hazards. So this is if you're working in a medical field usually, or with plants. You're dealing with body fluids, fungus, so if you're removing mold from homes, insect bites, maybe in a zoo, animal droppings, those are all biological hazards. Those are things that come from a body. That's how you can think of it. Ergonomic hazards, this is a big one that a lot of people ignore. Ergonomic is being in the right position so you're not causing injury to your body. So that includes poor lighting. Maybe you're in an office and the lights are too dark and you're straining your eyes to look at a computer screen. Poor workstations, this is super important. If you work in an office, you need to make sure your hands, when you're typing, are not bent. There's lots of injuries like occupational overuse that can be caused if you're not sitting properly and your arms aren't aligned correctly to allow the blood and circulation to flow. Same as posture. If you're anything like me and you're in front of a computer for a lot of the day, it's really important to do some exercises, bending and stretching. And another thing that's common with ergonomic hazards are like if you're working in a store and you're standing on the same side of the till and you're scanning groceries through and you're using the same arm. That repetitive movement over and over, if you don't change your movement or change which side you're standing on, you can actually cause some pretty good damage to your body. And then too much force. So whether it's lifting and pulling, you need to make sure your body is in a good position to be able to handle those types of jobs. So ergonomic is one that sort of goes unseen, but you don't see it until you have the injury. Okay, let's go review chemical hazards, physical hazards, biological hazards, and ergonomic hazards. Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to jump over to Google Classroom. And at this point, I'm not going to stop teaching, but this is when you can pause the video and you're going to go to Google Classroom and you're going to find the question and you're going to answer, where do you think you would find some of the hazards mentioned? So pick one hazard. Pick either chemical, physical, ergonomic, or biological. Pick one and suggest 2 jobs where you might encounter these hazards. And I will show you how to get there. You're going to go to classroom.google.com. You're going to log in. I'm going to go in as my demo account here. Okay, going in as a student. See if I can remember the password. Yay, I had enough coffee. I remember this morning. Okay, so you're going to go in. You're going to go to classwork. You're going to go down to topic 4, and we're going to answer this question here. Where do you think you would find some of these hazards? So we're going to look at the question, pick one hazard, and suggest 2 jobs where you might encounter these hazards. And I'm going to pick an ergonomic. And ergonomic hazard, I would find it in an office, and give an example too. Office typing where someone isn't holding their arms, hands properly when typing. That's an office, that's a typing job. And the second job for an ergonomic hazard is, I'm going to use what I said before, which is at a grocery store. Person is always in the same position, scanning groceries for too long, too much time without moving or a break. Okay, so those are my 2 hazards. I'm going to pop it in there. It is worth some points here. If you're not sure about the hazards, you'll see that I've given you a picture for reference to review what the hazards are. Chemical, physical, biological, ergonomical. You should really make a word to help you remember that. And when you're done, you're going to click Turn In. There we go. I just did one assignment for you. Okay, moving along. Let's talk Occupational Health and Safety Act. So most workers in Ontario, they're protected under something that's called Occupational Health and Safety Act. And does this apply to those who are working in the North? It all depends on your employer. There is an organization that covers federal, it's not just provincial, and that it's pretty much the same. You have very similar rights under the Federal Health and Safety Act, but today we're going to talk about occupational health and safety. So it basically describes health and safety requirements of different workplaces, and it authorized the inspectors from the Ministry of Labor to inspect workplace and accidents. And I can tell you this actually happens. It happened in Sioux Lookout. I had a contractor working at my house. They had kids up on the roof, changing the shingles on my roof, and a Ministry of Labor inspector came by, and the employer was fined $50,000 because those kids were not wearing their PPE and they were not tied into the roof to stop them from following. So they can order a workplace to follow those requirements, and they can charge companies who are breaking the law. So it is not a cheap fine, let me tell you. So I don't think you need to listen to me. Let's watch this video. It tells us about the Occupational Health and Safety Act and what are your rights. And then we're going to chat about duties of employers after we're done. So let's watch.
Simple safety solutions, duties and responsibilities. In Ontario, workplace health and safety is regulated by the Occupational Health and Safety Act, commonly referred to as the OHSA or the Act. Some people even call it the Green Book. Under the Act, maintaining a healthy and safe workplace is a shared responsibility among the employer, supervisor, and the workers themselves. This concept is known as the Internal Responsibility System, or IRS, and it's the underlying principle of the Act. It means that we all work together to identify and control hazards and prevent injuries. The employer may be the owner or the person everyone knows as the boss. Supervisor would include a person who has either charge of a workplace or authority over a worker. A worker is generally any person who gets paid to perform work or supply services. But there's an exception. Employees, interns, and apprentices are also considered workers. Under the Act, each workplace party has very specific duties and responsibilities. The employer is ultimately responsible for establishing a health and safety program. This includes determining the rules for working safely, training workers on the rules and procedures for working safely, providing the right tools and equipment and ensuring they are maintained, managing hazards to eliminate or reduce the risk of injuries and illness, appointing a competent person as a supervisor, and take every precaution reasonable. In general, a supervisor is responsible for training workers on how to do their job safely, enforcing rules including the use of safety equipment and machine guarding, and take every precaution reasonable. And workers have responsibilities too. Some of these duties include following safe work procedures and rules, using the safety equipment properly, and reporting hazards and injuries to their supervisors. This communication helps ensure that supervisors can respond quickly to potential hazards. Also support the internal responsibility system by understanding their three rights. The right to know about the potential hazards of their job, the right to participate in workplace health and safety, and the right to refuse unsafe work believed to be dangerous to their own health and safety or that of a coworker. It's important to remember that a worker cannot be threatened or punished for following the law. This includes reporting a hazard, refusing unsafe work, or for cooperating with the Ministry of Labor during inspection or investigation.
A dysfunctional internal responsibility system can cost your business. And it's not just about you as a productive employee. Workplace injuries and illnesses can result in higher WSIB insurance costs, not to mention Ministry of Labor work orders, tickets, and fines that result from non-compliance with the OHSA. A conviction can also lead to a jail sentence for the employer, supervisor, or worker. No one wants to pay fines or unplanned legal fees. But more importantly, no one wants to be responsible for the injury or death of a coworker. So what can you do to support your internal responsibility system? Start by understanding the specific duties and responsibilities for your workplace. It may help to put them in writing. Then communicate this information to everyone who needs to know. Finally, talk with your workers. Ask questions so you know everyone understands the important role they play in maintaining a safe and healthy workplace. For tools and resources to support your health and safety program, visit the WSPS Small Business Center at WSPS.ca.
Okay, so I know that's for Ontario, but if you go to Google and you look up federal workplace safety, there's actually some laws. It's called the OHS. They're Canadian Occupational Health and Safety, and OSHA, and it's not Ontario. So there is a federal health and safety, and it's very similar, the rules around. So if you work for a federal organization, and all that means is if you're on reserve, essentially your organization is likely federal, not provincial, and you fall under the federal laws, which are pretty much the same as the Ontario laws. Okay, now we're going to talk PPE. What is PPE? So remember, your right to know includes the right to be provided with information to be safe, and it involves two types of training. So there's general training, which introduces you to the basic issues in safety, and specific training helps you do your job safely. So specific training talks about things like learning how to operate the machinery safely, using personal protective equipment, machine guards, lockout procedures, shields and protections, those kinds of things. So you have a right to have personal protective equipment, PPE, on the job, and you need to be trained to use it properly. So let's see, what is PPE, I wonder. Let's watch this little clip.
You wouldn't think of going fishing without bringing along the right tools for the job, would you? Then why go to work without wearing the correct PPE?
Oh, sorry, I stopped the video by accident.
Along the right tools for the job, would you? Then why go to work without wearing the correct PPE for whatever job you do? What's that? Glad you asked. Personal protective equipment includes things like hard hats, safety goggles, hearing protection, gloves, high visibility vests, work boots, fall protection, and more. PPE can prevent painful and possibly crippling injuries while you work. After all, nobody wants to get hit by a falling object, poked in the eyes, burned by chemicals, or fall into a deep hole. Right? Right. It's important to choose the correct PPE for the types of hazards you encounter on your job, whatever your job might be, from medical technician to construction worker, auto body finisher, or even landscaping contractor. There can be dangerous conditions that require personal protective equipment that not only fits you well, but is also in good working order without cracks, tears, or holes. Yikes. There may not be anything that can protect you from a shirt that loud. No, that probably won't help. But regardless of your supervisor's taste and fashion, if you have any questions about the type or quality of PPE that's right for your job, he or she is the one you should talk to. You can also consult your company's employee manual or even look at OSHA regulations online. Remember, everyone has the right to work in a safe and healthful environment. Access to correct, well-maintained, and well-fitted personal protective equipment is an important part of that right. The point is, wherever you work and whatever you do, there should be a culture of safety at your workplace, one that's enforced and encouraged every day. No excuses, no exceptions. So be sure to take these steps. Learn about specific hazards you encounter on the job. Choose the proper personal protective equipment made to guard against those hazards. Make sure that your PPE is in good working order and that everything fits you comfortably so you can wear it every day. After all, you don't work to get hurt. You work so that you can enjoy your life with friends and family. Hey, nice catch. For more on workplace safety, call Montana State Fund.
Okay, you don't actually need to call Montana State Fund because we're not living in Montana, but you get the gist. That's what PP is. And so your task, one of your assignments actually this week in classwork is to, where are we? Topic 4, you're going to work on a hazards poster. So hazards poster here, you're going to check your workplace or your classroom, wherever you are, and you're going to create a poster about the kinds of equipment or personal belongings that could pose a hazard in a workplace because of your placement, poor state of repair. Each type of work requires different awareness and hazards and risks. So I need to identify specific situations that you face specifically in your workplace, and you're going to make a poster to highlight the PPE or other hazard prevention strategies you would use to protect yourself. So I've given you a template, a hazards poster. There's a little video, a 12-minute video on how to create a flyer using Google Slides. So you have all the tools you need. That's your assignment. I didn't set the due date till Monday because I felt like you would need some more time to do it. So don't panic if you don't get it done right away. I will still mark it. And the other task you have to do today is I've given you a link to the WHMIS training. And what you're going to do is you're going to work through the training activities. It's 9:30. We'll do a little bit of it together today. You're going to watch the videos and answer the questions. And once you've done, I'll show you what to do with it. So maybe we'll get through it all today. So let's take a look at it together. We're going to talk WHMIS. This will actually give you a certificate to add to your resume as well.
Today we're going to talk about the importance of the WHMIS system, how chemicals can affect you, the WHMIS legislation, and then how labels and safety data sheets provide the information you need to remain safe at work. At the end, there will be an easy quiz.
Okay, so you're just going to work your way through this, these tasks.
Why do we have to spend time learning the WHMIS? Every day.
Okay, so you're going to go through and watch each little clip, and at the end there's going to be a quiz. So let's go. I'm going to try and don't click all the way through, but I'm going to get us through to the quiz at the end. Okay, so here's the quiz.
WHMIS 2015 uses pictograms to identify.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to answer the question and then continue. And as you go through, you're going to do a quiz. And at the end, it's going to give you a certificate. You're going to use the same strategy as last time, where you're going to print, save that certificate, and you're going to click here. Oops. I'm going to go in as a student so you can see. Okay, so when you've done your certification, you're going to upload that certificate. So you just click on your WHMIS training, you go to view assignment, and what you're going to do is you're going to upload your certificate here. Okay, you can upload it as a file, and then you're also going to mark it as done. So when you've handed it in to me, and then you're going to go to your Google Drive, and you're also going to upload it into your portfolio that I've shared with you. I guess it's not in this account, but you're going to upload it into your folder that says your class portfolio. So I think that what we're going to do is you have a lot of work to complete today, and I don't want you to spend forever listening to me talk at you. I'd like to just give you the rest of this lesson another 25 minutes, and it's going to take you probably another hour or 2 hours to get the assignments done today. So your task today is to answer the question, you're to do your WHMIS training and get your certificate, and then you're to work on your hazards poster, and that's your assignment. So you have a fair amount of work to do today. Like I say always, don't panic. Call me, text me, Facebook message me if you need help. My contact information is listed above. And yeah, this is the last class for this week. I think today is Thursday. Let me check. Today is Thursday. So all you have to do is work on your assignments for tomorrow. On Monday, I think we're pretty much done with workplace health and safety, which is super exciting. Monday, we're going to be talking about privacy and confidentiality. Tuesday, we're talking about human rights. Wednesday, we talk about unions and collective bargaining. Thursday, we're going to talk about employment trends and gender in the workplace. And then we see how we go. Then that should get us all the way to topic 10, which will get you, we're going to get ready for co-op the following week, start you collecting your work hours, and get you graduated. So have a super amazing weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next class. And yeah, get your work done. Do a good job. I'm very generous with my marks if people hand in work. So get your work in. And I'm pretty good at giving feedback too. So, all right. Have a great couple days, and we'll see you next lesson.